The following podcast is not affiliated with the developers who have created the games being reviewed. The reviews are solely the opinions of the hosts to be used to make an educated decision on what games to download and play.
This is Michael Menheim, creator of Mutant Football League, and you are listening to Budget Arcade.
Hello gamers and welcome to Budget Arcade, a free-to-play gaming podcast to help you navigate through the growing realm of free-to-play games. I'm Scott.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Elliot.
And welcome to episode number 50. Just to recap, we play a free-to-play game each week and then we rate and review it. Elliot, what is this week's game?
We are playing the game Alchamancer. Alcamancer is a turn-based battle game where you play as an Alcamancer, striving to defeat other Alcamancers in epic battle. It comes to us from Lost One Studios. It came out February 1st, so if you're listening to this when it comes out, it just came out a couple days ago.
And we actually have the developer on the podcast with us today, Nick Thrope.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. Yourself?
Cool, yeah, just excited to be here. It's been a busy day.
You don't have to pretend to be excited.
I mean,
we're used to it.
I'm genuinely excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're okay.
It's overwhelming.
We know where we stand.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, yeah, the show's really good. I've checked out a couple episodes, and yeah, just excited to be on it.
So is this your first game you've ever made?
I've made a few more games. Only one was actually like released for mobile as well. It was like a pretty easy endless runner type thing. But yeah, I've made a bunch of games, probably like 5 or 6 total.
Gameplay.
So let's get into the gameplay of this. This is a grid-based game. How many squares is it?
49 squares.
And so the center square is a square that you cannot go to and doesn't really react with anything. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's just to make it so that on the first 2 turns, each player actually has access to one of each of the 6 elements available. And that stops you from running over and grabbing the other player's elements.
Okay.
It's pretty ingenious.
Yeah. So this is a pretty different game than anything I've played. I found it to be pretty original. So I'll run down just kind of briefly what the gameplay is. You start off on that grid, like Scott said, and there's various elements around, and they're represented by different icons. Like there's a skull, there's fire, there's like a blue circle-y thing, I don't know what you would call it. There's grass, and as you collect these elements, you have a list of spells that you can cast. And so you're on this grid of 49 with another player, and you're both collecting spells, taking turns collecting spells and casting. And the point of the game is to do more damage to your opponent, and the first one to 0 loses. Sums it up, maybe?
Yeah,
I would say that sounds about right. How many spells total are there in the game currently?
Ooh, currently we've got 30 total.
Okay, and is it an even distribution of the elements between each spell?
Yeah, so there's 6 different elements, and currently each one has 5 spells in it.
And it looked to me, and I may be wrong, but it felt to me like any 2 elements could combine into something. It felt like as long as I picked up 2 or more of something, I could cast at least one thing.
Absolutely, yeah, that was specifically for the first player. Since there's usually in a lot of turn-based games, there's that first turn advantage. First player starts with 2 less energy, which is what allows you to collect elements. And picking up 2, initially, sometimes picking up 2 would give you no options. And for newer players, that could be frustrating, so I ended up switching it to this system.
Do you find that the first player typically wins? Do you know those kinds of things at all?
Yeah, I definitely did a lot of tests. You know, I didn't like write any specific tools to track that, so it's mostly just like my own firsthand data. But
sure,
it's pretty even because first player gets that disadvantage with 2 less energy, and then second player, to kind of rebalance that later, they get if you notice, random elements start to pop up on the 4th turn,
Right.
and that happens on second player's turn.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing is, this game has online play. How difficult was that for you to implement?
So this is my first game that I've made with like a networked game like that, and it's extremely difficult compared to non-networked games.
I love hearing it in your voice because you're just like semi-defeated by that question. Where
Yes.
You're like, look, dude.
Well, and not only is it online play, you can play between both the iOS and the Android platforms, correct?
Yeah, I mean, just getting it to it wasn't getting the 2 games to be able to interact platform to platform. It's that they both have totally different specs. So like when you minimize on iOS, for example, it's a different situation than when you minimize your app on Android. That's why if you notice before each match it says if you minimize you may forfeit. Because yeah, that was just part of like something in development that took me over a month and I still wasn't able to fix it. So I was like, you know what, there's a lot more game to build and I need to just move on from this one issue.
Yeah. Well, so the reason I ask that is because sometimes we'll get larger studios release something without online. I'm like, how difficult can it be? And here you are, one man studio really having a crack at it. So
yeah, I did my best because I thought it was the most fun way to play was against another person. So I'm like, got to make this happen.
yeah. And it's actually interesting.
I 100% agree.
When you pull it up, it shows you how many people are online. It has a matchmaking system. So
yeah, that number of players online came after so many times of just sitting there waiting for a match. So now it's like you go in, if there's nobody on, you can play a single player match, check again.
Yeah, and the online play is really what makes this game, because after so many matches and so many points on single player, you reach a cap out or you can't get any more points, correct?
Yeah, so especially in single player, if you're fighting regular enemies, you would stop. They cap out at about 1,000, so you'd stop getting points just before 2,000 at probably like 1,700. There are some special enemies that randomly appear in single player that can give you a little more, but
they're hard as hell to do, though.
They're extremely difficult. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think I've beaten a single one of those yet, and been rolled by them every single time.
Yeah, same for me.
So the trick with those, I'll keep this one real brief, but they're really tough because they have buff stats, and nobody else in the game can really have like a buffed stat. Like, so they start with more attack and defense than you, but they're AI, so they're not as smart as you. So the trick is just obliterate their attack stat, and then they won't be able to hurt you enough to defeat you.
Ah, so seduce them, and seduce them some more.
Right, just keep seducing them, and then they're not smart enough to know, oh, my attack's really low, I need to boost it. Currently,
that's how I got married. I just kept seducing.
Right.
One of the things that when I was looking at this game looks like a Game Boy Color game to me, in like the best way possible. Is that like something you went for style wise or anything, or?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. That's what I played the most as a kid, was either Game Boy Color, and Super Nintendo. But not specifically Game Boy Color, but the sprites started with kind of like a more Game Boy, like they're like lower resolution than like a Super Nintendo sprite. So definitely in that vein.
Yeah, it really reminded me of that a lot, especially like when you load it in, even like the grayscale look of it in the beginning.
Yeah, originally the whole thing was going to be like that, but I tested out some other games that kept with that kind of the integrity of the old Game Boy games with no color, and like they'd only use like 3 or 4 colors, and I was like, it just was too flat for like a modern game. Even though,
I think you're right.
Yeah, I respect those games and everything, but this is just kind of what I ended up going with.
No, I really like the look of this game a lot, actually.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, one thing we didn't touch on yet with the gameplay was that there is a max amount of items that you are allowed to collect before you have to start casting spells. That's what was it, like 10 or something?
It's 8.
So yeah, you can only collect up to 8 of each element, or one specific element, before you have to start casting things.
Yeah, and that was because people were stockpiling a lot in the beginning, so I had to put that in. And smart players can still get around that because they can stock up to 8 and then use the 4 on their next turn to technically have 12 ready. Like Scott actually did that to me in one of the first matches where he had stocked up 2 Berserks, 2 Planet Splitters, and just I thought I had him, then all of a sudden there's like 4 spells in a row and I was dead.
This is the one-turn kill.
Exactly. It's pretty cool.
So how does it feel to get outplayed in your own game?
I don't like to lose really at any games, so especially when you're the one who made it, you feel like you should be the master. But in honesty, I was losing even when I first got like my first 5 testers. One of my friends is really good at games, and he ended up beating me. And then my girlfriend too, like I was beating her a lot at first, but then she got better than me.
Nice.
Yeah, because they're
And out of context, that's really good. I just kept beating her.
Oh God,
Oh,
Elliot.
Sorry, I can't turn it off. It's a problem.
But yeah, it's like they get to keep playing the game, but I would end up, go back and add updates and things like that. So I'd only beat them if I know like a new spell does a certain thing that they don't know about yet.
So you don't have like a super cheat button you can press?
I do.
Built into the game.
I've been close before, especially with some of my close friends, because I know they'll rip on me if I lose to them. But on my computer, like if I play from my PC, I have all the guts, so to speak, available. So I could change my health, I can change your attack, I can change how much mana I have, everything like that.
Yeah, because I would cheat. Just putting that out there.
I've been close, but it's not. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Game Shark, bro. Game Shark.
Oh yeah.
Well, what's funny is there actually is a secret code menu in the game. So like if I'm on mobile, there's like a cheat code menu, so to speak.
Up, down, left, right.
Kind of. It's hidden on the main menu. If you click around, you'd find it, and then you'd have to know. Yeah. And then you basically have to enter a line of C# code to go to one of the other places from
hell.
there.
That's not going to happen then. I don't know anything about coding.
But the menu's there if you want to find it. It has a hidden track that I wrote myself on there, so like a music track.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Easter egg. Spoilers.
Yep.
Paywall.
All right, so this is 100% free to play. There is a donate option on there, and Nick, do you want to go through what donations will get in the future of the game, per se?
Yeah, so that donate feature, I went through a lot of different phases of like how to try and monetize this, and in the end, I was like, I don't really want to, they all kind of didn't feel right, so I put that donate thing in there, but instead of just kind of blindly donating, the game itself has an experience bar. So when you donate money, that translates into experience points for the game. And when it levels up, I'm going to add a new feature. So we recently hit level 2. A new skin's going to come in the next week, like a new character skin to choose from. And some of the things in the future will be like new spells, new like a tournament mode, and a single player RPG mode, which would be kind of further along in the donation cycle.
I think since it does have this sort of Game Boy aesthetic, like palette swaps would be cool too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like you select a skin and then just choose a different color for it.
Well, so you remember the Super Game Boy?
Oh, you mean like change the whole screen, like a layover? Or overlay?
Not so much that, like on the Super Game Boy, you could play the black and white games, and I'm using air quotes that you can't see, in color. But it would assign, because I think the Game Boy had 4 different scales of gray, and then it would assign 4 different colors to that, and you could just palette swap and kind of change it up color-wise how it looked.
Oh, that would actually be a cool idea. That would be slightly different to code here than I think on the Game Boy, but I could definitely make it happen.
Well, I don't know anything about coding. You could just tell me I'm an idiot, and we can move on. That's fine.
No, since I'm work by myself, it's like I always am looking for the easiest way to do things for the most part.
Yeah.
So when I hear something like that, I'm like, how can I make that happen without having to put, weeks into that?
Replayability.
Once you've got the donations enough to be able to get your other features that you're planning for the game, I believe the replayability would be kind of high on this. Currently, though, single-player replayability is pretty low, and unless there's other people online, you're really not going to be getting much replayability on this game, I would say.
Yeah, that's totally a fair point. Like single player only goes so far, and then unless I'm trying to build a player base so that you can always go on and compete, and then having the ranks in the leaderboard was kind of my way of incentivizing people to keep playing.
And here's the other thing for anyone listening: if you download and try the game and like it, it's free, so you can link it to your friend and say, "Hey, I'm playing this. It's kind of cool. We could play right now together." And so I get, like, out of the box, maybe no one's online, but if it's something that people are into, because the price is non-existent and the barrier for entry is pretty low, you could probably convince some friends to start playing too, you know?
Do you have any plans to like make the AI a little more difficult and level up as well?
Yeah, I wanted to have some sort of levels in like a single player mode, so you could kind of select, like, I don't know what it would be yet, but something like the difficulty of what you want to face, kind of like how much can you bite off this time. And the AI that's in there now would be kind of a medium or like a low medium, so it can definitely get more intelligent. I just haven't had the time to put in, but I have a lot of ideas to make it a lot smarter.
I think that would definitely add to it for sure.
Yeah, but what you mentioned about the letting your friend know and playing it that way, like that was kind of the idea of this, is where it's like you can just jump in the game, play somebody in a 5-minute match that's kind of like somewhere between like a Pokemon battle and like a Magic card match or something like that, and just have a good time that way. And it's not a ton to learn. There's a lot of spells, but the basic idea is similar for most of them. So yeah, I feel like even if there's not somebody on right away, like you could always get some sort of match going.
Yeah, for sure.
Online matches between people can be varying degrees of time limit too. I think I've had a couple that were like maybe 10 minutes long, and then I actually had one today, I think it was like 25 minutes long, because we were both just like debuffing each other left and right, and then finally got some hits off, and then healed up and all this other stuff, and they actually ended up beating me at the end, but it was a long match.
And that was an online match?
Yeah, that was an online match.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it might have been one of the newer players that just downloaded the game today.
So
that's cool.
Are the starting boards, you mentioned that each side of the board, people will be able to access all the elements that they might need. But other than that, is the starting board randomly generated, or is it kind of set and then it goes random from there?
So initially in the game, like it was just each time you had a completely random board, and then right after the first turn, 4 random elements would spawn every turn. But this sometimes gave one player an unfair advantage. Right now it's one set board every time for the first 4 turns. Then on the 4th turn, random elements start spawning, so that by the 4th turn there's enough cleared out where everybody can kind of navigate the board and collect the random elements equally.
Yeah, and that's what allowed me to actually get that combo off too, because of the set elements. You can actually look at those, decide what you want from your list of spells, and strategize what you're going to pick up when and what turn, and then cast your spells at the end.
100%.
And just out of curiosity's sake, how do you program randomness? It seems like such a weird thing to try to program.
It's definitely, especially in other games I've tried to work on, like what you think is going to be random and fun, sometimes it's just random and random. Like it's not sometimes not rewarding. Mm-hmm. Like you have to put certain limits on the randomness. Like, you don't want, when the whole board was generating in a row, for example, sometimes you would get it so that there's a whole corner that's just one element. Like imagine 1/4 of the board is one element. That it would just randomly spawn like that. And then
wow.
Yeah. And if you notice, a lot of the spells, they don't have 2, like none of them currently have 2. Actually, one of them does, but you don't need 2 of the same element. So if there's a corner that's all fire, for example, it's kind of useless. So I had to program in, if you spawn 2 fire, wait this many spawns and then spawn another, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Well, and the reason I say this, because I even see games that are big AAA titles, like for example, Smash Brothers. If my son and I were playing Squad Strike, which if you don't know is 5-on-5, and we just decided we're going to each randomly select our whole team, and it generates the team and they're mirrored like 2 or 3 times. And I was like, the randomness programming in this is kind of busted, in Smash. So it's just one of those things that fascinates me, is randomness in games and how it's programmed, because I'm a fan of like roguelike games, and so much of that depends on RNG. So that's why I was asking. It's just fascinating to me.
Oh, totally. I've listened to so many like talks and things on like random number generation in games. Like there's a lot of cool examples from Diablo where they had to tweak stuff because some things just aren't fun, right? It has to still play well and be fun to pick these things up. Like the wand that has plus 10 to melee damage is not, you know what I mean?
Not the kind of randomness
Right.
you want.
Right. Or I guess at least that should be more rare.
Yeah.
Judgment.
All right, at the end of each episode, we decide if a game deserves our seal, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down, and needs a 2/3 vote to be approved. Elliot, does this get your seal?
Yeah, I really like this game more than I thought. When I first booted it up, the tutorial to me was a little confusing, and I'm sure that's my small childlike brain. And so when I went through the tutorial, I had already decided I did not like this game. And then I started playing it, and I realized that there is some skill involved playing this game. There is, some randomness to it, but there's also not. I really like the aesthetic of the game. I think it's fun. I think it's a lot of fun to play with people. I played it. It was a couple nights ago when they had that little mini tournament, and I played with some people, and I really enjoyed that. So playing with people is really fun. Playing with the AI can get old. And when you're playing against the hard AI, I did terrible. But I do enjoy this game. This is one of those games that's going to stay on my phone for a little while for sure. So it's getting my seal.
All right, Jeff, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to say it gets my seal as well. It's just so different. Like, I can't think of a game to compare it to. And it feels wholly original, and it is absolutely free. So there's no scummy way of trying to get money out of you. But if you like the game, you can donate, and it has online play out of the box, which is crazy.
Cross-play online play,
which is also crazy. Which you know how Scott feels about cross-play.
Well, that's 2 votes for yes, so it's approved already. But it does get my seal as well. Like Jeff said, it's there's not a game that you can describe that's even anywhere similar to this. This would be a new genre of game, I would say. Nobody else has done this that I've seen ever before. Maybe something close, but nothing like this. And I feel once the RPG single-player element is added to that will just make this game, that much more fun. The caveat, of course, is if the player base can get there, which I hope it does. Hopefully, enough people start downloading this game and playing this game where there's online games on a regular basis, that's what would make this game 100% a viable game on a long-term basis. So this does get my seal, and this game is Budget Arcade approved.
Well, you forgot to ask if our guest approves of his own game.
I mean, yeah, I feel like what Scott said is really true though. Like it's really hinges on whether the player base grows, and I've got a lot of work to do as far as that. That's kind of my main job right now. So yeah, definitely gets my seal, and I hope I can get there.
Would have been really messed up if he shot it down. Game's trash, and you guys are idiots for liking it. Deuces.
Removing it from the stores today.
I made this game on a dare. You guys are stupid. So next week we will be playing yet another battle royale or battle chess.
You can't even say it. I'm living
Auto
the
chess,
good
yeah.
life over here. It's auto chess.
Auto
heaven.
battler.
It's
But,
might and magic.
we're gonna continue with that RNG.
That's how I feel about it.
All right, Mr. Roadcaster.
Good job, Elliot.
We're playing Might and Magic Chess Royale. It's for your iPhone. It's for your Android, and I do believe it's also on PC.
Yes, it is.
Now, just to say, this game is a little bit different from other chess auto battlers. But I can't say it because it's a kind of a mix between a battle royale and a auto battler. So
Yeah, and
it should be interesting as we delve into that.
Elliot has always objected to the length of auto battler games, individual games, and this is a much more brief experience. So check it
It
out.
definitely is.
And we'll be back
For sure.
to talk about it.
All right, Nick, do you want to plug yourself, where people can follow you at, where they can find the game?
Yeah. I'm Lost One Studios on Twitter, Instagram, and for Alcamancer, you can just search Alcamancer in the Play Store or the App Store.
All right, and we will also put those links in the show notes.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Budget Arcade. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Budget Arcade. We also have a website, www.budgetarcade.com.
You can send any hate mail to show@budgetarcade.com. You can join our Discord from our show notes or as well as our Twitter page. Music is provided by Stimage. You can download his music at metroidmetal.com. And game on.